It's 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. From 299 Queen Street West, you're watching Toronto's Breaking News, and I'm George Logogenis. Welcome to this month's episode of The Chief. Chief Mark Saunders joins me now live in studio. He's here to take your questions, and you can reach us by a multitude of ways. You can call us at 416-872-2724. You can email us right now at CP24.com or tweet us using the hashtag AskTheChiefCP24. Joining me now with the Chief is Inspector Steve Watts with the Drug Squad. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
let's start
having me.
with Project Claudia. It goes back to that. What was the genesis of this project, and how has it evolved into what we're still seeing now, which is a continuing, an ongoing series of raids?
The genesis origin of that was back at the beginning of this year. We noticed a really rapid increase in terms of dispensaries. Literally, they were growing from, in February to March on a monthly basis. They were growing 10 to 20 at a time. So by the time we had reached May, we had already kind of reached a number approximately around 80 dispensaries. So there was a kind of a collaborative approach with the City of Toronto, with municipal licensing standards, and of course with PPSC and the support of the command, just to determine how we were going to address this and how we were going to move forward with this issue.
So if you're seeing 80 to 100, is it like some other things in life where if you're seeing that many storefront, there's probably a lot more behind them? A lot of others that are more clandestine that you don't even really know about, that are sort of, cloak and dagger?
Well, I would say maybe in terms of production, in terms of illicit production, black market production to supply, but not necessarily, because the whole reason for those, or one of the reasons, is to make as much money as possible. You'd have to have your retail storefront to attract your customers. So I would think it would primarily just be the storefronts that they're clearly advertising, very, very openly advertising, whether it be on social media, paper media. So there was no hiding their presence.
You were very prescient last month on the episode. We talked about dispensaries and the raids that had just happened days before the last episode, and you wanted to really punctuate the public safety issue, well beyond just that these places are operating illegally. You're talking about edibles, and your fears that something like this could have happened. And from what we know, it hasn't been fully released to us, at least. Whatever kind of production was going on that caused, or whatever in this place that caused that explosion, and we saw the tape of how explosive it was happening in the back and in the basement. So just imagine what it took to create that, and that people were passing by seconds earlier. That's a big problem in an urban environment.
No, absolutely. When you see glass exploding on Eglinton, one of the busiest streets in our city, had it been for anyone being there, we know that we could have been having a much different discussion right now.
And there's been a lot of robberies happening too. There's been other crime that circulates in and around these dispensaries, correct?
That's correct. Anytime you have product, controlled substances, you have money in a location. I would draw the analogy to, say, a residential home invasion. You could draw a similar analogy to that. It's an opportune kind of target, if you will, to take both money and controlled substances.
Are you concerned about these dispensaries that continue to, defy the law and reopen moments after, days after, even hours after the police come and confiscate and raid and make arrests, that they're going to become ghettoized into certain parts of the city, and then just and the clientele will just continue to go there?
Well, I wouldn't
expecting that they'll be there.
Be careful with ghettoized. I'm hoping that the more we educate the community, the more we educate the City of Toronto to let them realize that it is an unlawful act when that transaction is occurring, then that is the driving force to help the reduction of the supply-demand factor that we have right now. It is unlawful. The quality of the substance is sketchy. You don't know what it is, and the Globe put out an article which verified that scientifically. So these aren't just words that we're putting on paper. This is the reality for what's going on right now, and we've got concerns.
Look, I've been to a couple of these places post-raid, and the places that have reopened not long after, starting to sell product to people as long as you're of age. Number of people that walked in, they just looked them up and down. There was not even an ID required. People are getting sold dime bags for $15, so they're turning a profit. It's a business, and the altruistic sort of side of it kind of falls off the table when you realize that every 10 people that come through, there's $50 in the pocket of the person running this place, and that's a whole other side of this, isn't it?
Absolutely, there's a large volume of cash that are flowing through these, and in the absence of overall federal legislation, that's what they've kind of seized on, and they've taken advantage of that. So that's where we find ourselves at this point.
Does it frustrate you that politicians made promises a little earlier than maybe they should have in a campaign versus what was really going to happen on the ground?
No, I'm not frustrated. I know, there's a federal task force that's committed to, looking at what the best regulations are for restricting, regulating, enforcing. And the focus for that task force is, the effects or the issues with young people, with drug-impaired driving. And like you said, you talked about before, where are your facilities? If, in fact, when it happens, where will your facilities, or where will your dispensaries be located? Not near schools and not near residential areas, and we can look to the U.S. and even look to Vancouver, what they've done downtown. So, I mean, it's not frustrating when we enforce the laws as they are and the CDSA as it stands, and that's our position. So.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of The Chief. Chief Mark Saunders joins us, as he does every month, and also today, Inspector Steve Watts, who works with the Drug Squad, spoke a couple segments ago about the dispensaries, where things stand there. We got an email that we got from Joe Furtado, who says, you guys are doing a great job trying to put a stop to these dispensaries with some success. Please don't stop. The sidewalks stink. Ever since the federal elections, numbers of people who now think that they are not only able to buy the stuff, but smoke it anywhere. Is this a problem that we can eliminate? It's the smoking on the street part, too. What happens with that? I mean, you and I see it every day around this neighborhood.
Well, I think with that type of, in relation to that, it's a good email. You have the kind of effects that are resulting that are not necessarily direct, but an indirect effects, and that is an indirect effect of having, dispensaries that are unlawful in highly populated residential business areas. So that's just going to be one of the aspects of having that type of activity in that area.